This ain't rock and roll. This is genocide. That's right. That means that you're listening to the sweet, sweet sounds of two people trying to get around copyright law. That's right. It's Bowiesplaining.
All right.
Yeah. Once again, I'm Dan. Dan, that's Eric that you just heard.
That was me. Yes.
Yeah. And we continue our journey into Eric's journey into David Bowie. This is
I'll look away. This is it's going great.
This is the dumbest visual joke ever. And
for a podcast.
Yep. Listeners, you're gonna get a lot of this. There we go. Welcome back to Bowiesplaining. I have a picture of Elton John. Today we are talking about Space Oddity, aka Man of Words, Man of Music. So we are going to be catching up with our fans here on the Facebook group. You can also, I don't know if I should advertise this Facebook group because it's technically not ours, but eventually we will have teenagewildlife.net.
Yeah, we should talk about how that should look because I got to finish setting that up.
Yeah, at some point. Space Odyssey.
Or we can just leave it black and white.
That'd be fun.
I could put a weird background like the old days of the internet.
All right, here we go. Here are some thoughts from our fans. Let's see. Milo says we knew the name Hermione decades before Harry Potter happened. We also knew how to pronounce parquet before Amber Heard butchered it on the stand. Eric, what are your feelings about Amber Heard and how she has ruined men?
Obviously, I have no thoughts about it whatsoever. And I'm glad I haven't heard about either of those people in several months.
I miss those days, I'm not going to lie.
Here's the internet was so fascinated.
The internet's always been a wonderful place. This is from Jareth's Girl, who is a longtime listener, first-time caller. I'd like to get a first-time listener's impressions on Unwashed and somewhat slightly Dazed. I think we'll get to that.
That's literally the second track, so I think we'll get there today.
What the podcast does. To my 13-year-old mind, that was some of the most grotesque and simultaneously amusing lyrical sensory detail I'd ever encountered. It was also the first time Daddy's, we call him Daddy on that website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Daddy's raw sexual power really hit me, which made for an extremely confusing brew. Listening now, I can remember how I felt hearing this downbeat acoustic song mudslide into an unbridled rock performance, complete with choice phrases like, I'm a phallus in pigtails. The best I can describe the feeling is virginally threatened. It's a good description. We have more notes, more for Managed to Rule the World, which we will get to next because that's the next album. Eric, when we get to that track, are you ready to fulfill Jareth Girl's wishes there?
I have notes, yes.
Sweet. Notes are good. I also have notes in the form of a slide show.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Let's see how this goes. So we also have some past show corrections.
Mm-hmm.
A pink monkey bird. Eric, what is a pink monkey bird?
Well, apparently, if you are squawking like a pink monkey bird, you are a bottom.
Yes. Receiving the butt sex.
Yes. Yeah. That is something that I learned.
See?
When someone said the lyrics to Moon Age Daydream, someone on a different podcast, friends of the show, I can't remember which friend of the show, but on the podcast Punipod, they were talking about Moon Age Daydream in the movie, as it was used in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes. And they said, the lyrics are pretty much nonsense. And I'm like, actually...
Nice.
It's just Ziggy expressing himself and introducing himself to the world.
Exactly. So you're squawking like a pink monkey bird.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, I found out in doing my research for this episode, like a good boy, I feel like the research is going to continue to get more absurd. Lady Stardust was apparently a tribute to Mark Boland, who we will learn more about by the end of this episode.
Is he one of the bandmates?
He is not. He's
okay.
We'll get to it. He's
okay. We'll get there.
By the way, Eric, you are an Eric with a K. How do you feel about Mark spelled with a C?
Hey, you do you, Mark.
I do
know a Mark with a C.
I think the ideal spelling of Mark is with a K, and I think the ideal spelling of Eric is also with a K. It's the CKs that really ruin it. If you're Eric with a CK, you better be like Norwegian or something.
No.
I don't know.
No, with the K is the Norwegian.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Dutch.
There you go.
We also have a disclaimer from our law offices. Here it is.
The Bowiesplaining podcast delves into David Bowie's...
Oh, come on. The power just went out. Uh-oh. Let's try again.
Catalog. The law offices of Asher, Michaela, and CJ hereby explicitly state that neither host possesses authoritative expertise, even though one of the hosts may or may not have impersonated David Bowie in fan forums. This is a claim we can neither confirm nor deny at this juncture. Listeners are cautioned that hosts may derive amusement from any errors, irritating dedicated fans. This podcast is purely for entertainment, not professional advice. Listeners must ensure compliance with local laws and seek approval from a health professional to engage in podcast listening without adverse health risks. By listening, you release hosts from liability for inaccuracies, acknowledging their non-liability for any consequences arising from the content. Thank you for your understanding. Enjoy responsibly.
Also, Iman, if you're listening, just please give us the rights. That's all we want. So that was a note from our
legal counsel,
our legal team. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we got some biographical details. We started off we did a big sploosh into some of the works of Mr. David Bowie. And then we listened
is that how you pronounce the name?
David. Yes.
David? Okay.
Yes. And then we listened to Ziggy Stardust because that was an album that you had heard. All the nerds out there are probably just clamoring for me to tell you the information that they already know. So,
ooh.
Yes, because this is how, we host another show. It's called The Supreme Resort. We do the same shit about Disneyland and Disney World. I'm not going to go into that detail, though. So, his dad was Hayward. He worked at a children's charity called Bernardo's. His mother's name was Peggy. She was a waitress. He had an older half-brother named Terry who introduced him to music. And David eventually started playing saxophone at the age of 16. How did he introduce him to music? Well, I just happen to have a link in the slideshow. He exposed him to various musical genres. He took him to concerts. Basically, he was like the cool older brother. You will get into more about him. There's a narrative arc there are a few narrative arcs I'm trying to get going here. But at this point in the story, he existed. He was a huge influence, and we probably have him to thank for this stuff. Mr. David Bowie left school at the age of 16 to pursue a career in music. Yes, that's true. He worked as an electrician's mate and a commercial artist.
Like a friend of an electrician?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
That happens in Britain. They pay you for that.
Any friendship that you have with anyone in a professional field, you get paid. It's socialism, the Brits are known for their socialism. In 1966, he continued to use his birth name of David Bowie to avoid confusion with Davy Jones of the Monkees. That's not something we're ever going to correct. And in 1965, David Bowie released his first single. It's a little something called Liza Jane. Nobody bought it, but it was, he shat instead of getting off the pot, so to speak. Okay. Here's a little Liza Jane. This is him in concert.
You're really old.
This is in 2004. This is not how it sounded in 1966. If it did sound like this in 1966, yeah. Yeah. If he did sound like this in 1966, holy shit.
Rocking the world. So they're like, Davy Jones, you gotta listen to this.
Yeah. So, just to get into like the meat of it, where did it go? There we go. She's good to me. I got curly brown hair. Yeah, there you go. So you get an idea, kind of. It's just kind of your standard rock shit. How do I move forward? Google Slides. Oh, there we go.
Ooh,
here's some Conrads.
I'm in.
There's no way back to where we were before. There's nothing left between.
Yeah, you know, oldie shit.
Mm-hmm. Good vibraphone in there.
Yeah. Eric, how much do you like mime?
An acceptable amount.
Would you say that you like
for the American audience?
Right. Okay. So would you say that you are average with American audience or below or above? I'll say right now I'm slightly above average with my tolerance for mime if it doesn't involve face paint.
I would say I don't actively avoid mime, but I also don't actively seek it out.
That's fair. That's as it should be. Are you aware that David Bowie studied mime?
I was not aware until you said that sentence just there.
There we go. He teamed up with Lindsay Kemp, who is a dancer and choreographer, taught him mime. I have a clip of him talking about it. I'm not going to play that because we just want to get to the fucking rock music, man. Mark Boland, who again we will get into more, invited Mr. Bowie to open for his band T-Rex. Mark Boland's band.
Oh,
T-Rex.
he's okay. He's the
T-Rex
Trex guy.
Yeah, he's the dinosaur. With the one-man mime routine, the audience did not like it. More on that guy later. And it's 10. Fans of me speaking French, you're in for a treat. Etienne Decroix, sure.
Okay.
Was a French mime artist who emphasized the importance of physical precision. Eric, I want you to describe what it is that you are seeing on the screen.
Okay, all right.
This is Etienne Decroix, Le Marche sur Place. Okay.
All right. It's a very old sort of film, but he's he is marching in place, just like the French words said.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a little like moonwalk, but he's not going anywhere. But his arms are very floppy, very stringy, like the way no one actually walks. Oh, he's looking at us. Run!
Yep.
Oh no, he's running after us.
Oh no! It's like the
looking at us again.
It's like that movie with the train that I ran from when I got my new TV. There he goes. So yes, basically Michael Jackson traveled back in time and taught that man the moonwalk. So
yeah. Hey, we're still in the slideshow. Good job,
Jack. This is unnecessary.
The mime discussion, or
no, the slideshow. So we're going to continue with it. Are you familiar with Hermione?
I'm familiar with the Hermione that's on my screen here.
Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. Yes.
I'm guessing because there's a song about Hermione that there is a relationship with someone that may or may not have been named Hermione.
Oh, there sure is. Hermione Harmonica Farthingale was a dancer, and Bowie was at some point a struggling actor and musician. They connected kind of through Lindsay Kemp, I believe. I couldn't find the specific reference, but I think I remember reading it at some point. They were inseparable for the next year. It was kind of, from my reading of it, like that first relationship that hopefully everyone has, and also hopefully everyone stops having so that they
And
can
recover from.
Yes, recover from and be a real person. And they lived together for some time. They formed a folk trio called Feathers, made a short film together that no one really paid attention to.
You've seen it, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm a purist up to the point where I stop enjoying it, and I'm just like, okay, I don't need that. So I guess the important thing she really encouraged him to experiment and play around with image and sound and vision, some might say. And so that's kind of important there. Oh, look, that's what the slide says. I made this. For someone who works in the education industry, I'm really not good at this.
You're learning yourself.
I'm learning
how-to slides.
So she left him to pursue a career in dance, and he was, of course, not happy with this.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, and there's an actual picture of them on the screen.
He looks kind of devastated right there.
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of a stylish thing.
No, okay.
He's
They're
like
just 20, being 60s people.
At this point, he's like 20, 21-ish, which is weird to think that he was ever not 40, at least for me, or over 40. So she was important. He talked about her a lot. Angie, who he ends up marrying in 1970, kind of tries to replace her in some ways. Stop playing video. I'm not going to play that video. Tried to replace her in some ways, and his take on that was kind of like, yeah, I'm never actually going to love you. She's like, okay, cool. Then they got married. He said in an interview, Hermione broke my heart. I've been trying to mend it ever since. How are you doing on this? Do you think our listeners are bored?
That depends on who our listeners are.
Okay.
If they're like me, they're learning things and they're having a great time.
Cool. Okay. Listener, if you're bored, call 856-OUR-EARS and book a vacation to a Disney park so that you can be bored less often.
Yeah.
So he started writing songs for his debut album in 1966, worked with the producer. His name was Gus Dudgeon, but we're just going to call him Gus Dungeon because that's easier for me.
So Gus Dungeon was responsible for the Laughing Gnome?
You know what?
Or at least allowed it.
Let's blame it on him. Why not?
Okay.
They experimented with different sounds and techniques during the recording process. And one of the things they included was a Melotron. Eric, do you want to learn about the Melotron?
Let's learn about the Melotron. I love Melotrons.
There you go.
Enjoy the music for a minute before we let personality Eric Robinson explain.
Hello there. I suppose you thought you were listening to a long playing record just then. Well, you weren't.
I did.
These people are the most Tory people I've ever seen.
Hello there.
Hello. I'm trying to get my YouTube to work.
I don't see a volume anywhere on that. There's no option for volume.
There it is.
Okay.
It's all right.
Hello there. Here's the volume.
Hello.
You can adjust it
volume.
thusly.
You're listening to a new instrument that David Nixon and I have helped develop in this country. It makes the actual sounds of the orchestra. So come over and meet my son-in-law, will you? And the Melotron.
And honestly, when I watched this video, I jokingly said that these are the most Tory people I've ever seen. I think, no joke, I think the Melotron was a Tory instrument. It's like, yeah, we don't want to have to pay these musicians to come in and dirty our floors, do we? So here's a...
I need this, you see. I've never been able to play the piano. It's all right for you. You've got an orchestra.
Well, explain how it works, will you?
Well, actually, it's fairly straightforward. It's a musical computer, and as you know, Eric, the right hand is lead instruments with a choice of 18 different ones, and the left hand is rhythms in this half and backgrounds in this half, and it's all been fed onto hundreds of tape tracks.
All right, well, I suggest that you play a little simple piece. What about it?
I thought you'd never ask.
Well, that was a diss right there. I suggest you play.
2 fingers and
Get
nothing
to
up the
it.
sleeve.
So for the listener, we're looking at a dude who's kind of he's doing what I think a lot of people think a lot of electronic musicians do, which is like just pressing a key, a single key.
A trombone background.
Right. Yeah, you definitely don't want a trombonist in your studio.
Oh yeah, they could spit all over the place.
Yeah.
Let's see what this slimy bastard has to say here.
Jeff Unwin.
Oh, suddenly appeared as a different person.
We've invited a random person here to try to play an instrument. Let's see how he does.
We tinted him in with the smell of roast that we have cooking, and he looked very emaciated. We said, "Would you like to come in and play this song, and then we'll take your blood to keep us young."
His adrenochrome will be quite delicious.
He looked very, very confused, which is what you try to look for in a young boy.
Look at him. He's doing great.
So that's the Melotron. We got more Melotron going on here. We got inside a Melotron.
Well, you see, there are hundreds of tapes.
This one has tapes of children screaming.
That's the last 3 keys.
That I've recorded myself. Would you like to meet the children?
This here is Hermione.
See her mousy hair. Oh, you haven't heard that song yet.
So we're going to start out by looking at the back of the instrument and just sort of
This is
explaining
deep
what the
into
parts
the
are from the
Melotron.
bottom up. So inside this box is the power supply. You can't really see it, but it's pretty simple.
But you can hear it.
Delivers a variety of voltages to different areas. There are 2 main things that have to be done in here when you work on a Melotron. The first thing is replacing all of the electrolytic capacitors in here. And the second is correcting a ground loop, which has been designed into the instrument with the way the capacitors are wired. So that's something that you can do that will substantially decrease the 60 hertz hum on the output. So this right here is the motor. It's a
She's
pretty
pointing to a motor.
pretty heavy-duty motor, and you can hear it's fairly loud. And what it does is...
Fair, but let's learn about the motor control.
So
I'm
just
surprised she touched it. I figured she was going to get a shock.
No, it's just her fingers are probably just numb now. Oh, good, another sound from my connection.
I'll put that on C sharp.
simple and sort of limited electronic aspects of the instrument. This is the motor control board. Now this one still has what's called a CMC
Lady, this is
10
an
board
audio,
in it, which is the original board used by
audio
the
podcast.
M400.
Oh my goodness, doesn't she know what?
So let me show you what happens from this perspective when you
All right, we're
press
going
a key
down into
and
the
have a
thing.
note playing. So
Down into
here,
the
these are all the
crotch
strips of
of
tape,
the-
and each one of these is 5 feet long approximately, and they're not loops, they're just strips, and each is
Tape
connected
strips.
by a spring down here to the bottom of the frame at the lower part of the instrument. So when you press a note and the pinch roller starts advancing the tape against the capstan, it just pulls it up.
Get out of here, Paul McCartney.
And when it runs out of tape, it'll just stop. And then you let go, and it just gets pulled right back down by the spring.
This is a wildly impractical instrument.
I know, isn't it great? So in looking at this, I really got to a point where I was just like, oh, okay, so here's this impractical thing that was made for, I think, Tories who just wanted to have like entertainment at their parties, but didn't want to like learn how to play an instrument or hire anybody. And then it kind of got adopted by musicians who were like, that thing sounds really weird and fucked up. I'm going to use it. Which, case in point, here's Robert Fripp.
So while the Sirius probe was not probing very much at all, and Mr. Biff and Trev here getting it right, we discovered something we had not known was possible, which is we can soundscape with the Melotron, and over the top of this soloing over the top is also possible, but this is a good example of turning a seeming disadvantage to your advantage. It breaks down, so you discover something.
So I think a lot of people use the weirdness of it to their advantage. Yeah. We also have the stylophone. This is an explanation of a stylophone.
The toy, right?
Stylophone is a musical device powered by electricity that can be categorized as a synthesizer. Many established artists have used the stylophone in their songs, but the Clap are the only rock covers band in the world to use it as their core instrument. It consists of a battery connected to a speaker at one end. And a metal sheet with piano-style keys on it at the other. A pen or stylus with a metal nib is attached to the other side of the speaker. When the metal pen's nib makes contact with the metal sheet, the circuit is complete and the speaker sounds. Touching different keys on the sheet produces different sounds. Rolf Harris invented a stylophone in the 1970s, after being inspired by an idea put forward by Arthur C. Clarke in the same paper in which he suggested that geostationary satellites would make ideal telecommunications relays. Visit www.theclaponline.com to hear more.
And this is Guns N' Roses being played by several stylophones. Yep, not going to play that video. So we're getting Eric. How you doing? You have any questions? Have any thoughts?
You said you had an elaborate presentation for me, and you have exceeded all expectations. Are you sure you don't want to explain a harmonium to me too? Isn't that what he plays in the last song?
I don't know. I don't.
It sounds like a harmonium.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how much people know about these things. I was fascinated by this. I was just like, hey, let's learn how to play these things. So we also have Tony Visconti. There's several Tonys in Bowie's life at this period. By the way, listener, this is going to get shorter as we go forward. We're just laying some ground here.
Okay. I'm the listener.
And Eric too. We can skip. If you don't, okay.
Put in the time.
Like I said, no, I don't give a shit. Like I just want it to be interesting to people. Tony Visconti produced most of the album, but he didn't produce Space Oddity because he was like, that's commercial garbage, which is hilarious to me. He was like, no, this is just a take on this is just a cash grab on the space landing, and it's just like he really thought it was just going to be like a novelty thing, and he was like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work.
And he's responsible for doing the newer editions in the last 10 years, because I noticed that when I was comparing versions in iTunes.
Oh wow.
I happened to pick up a different one. Like, this is a very weird sounding mix. Oh, it's a different one. Okay.
Yeah, I think this mix is way improved myself, but
it sounds fantastic comparing
really
the
does.
two sounds. I really like what he did with the album.
Yeah, in fact, my first round of listening to this, or the first generation of this album rather, was one that I was just always kind of like, okay, well, we'll get there, but. And there's still parts of that for me, but his remastering of it brought the parts out that could be brought out, where I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. So basically he thought the album lacked direction, but he was like, I think there's something there, but I don't know exactly what yet. And he also worked with Mark Boland. We're seeing connections here. And just like it says in my notes, Visconti, he warned Bowie that Space Oddity could be a hit, but it would be really hard to follow up because the song itself isn't really a Bowie song. In his eyes, it wasn't, at least. So, and he also talked about Bowie would eventually go on to work with a bunch of other people. And I don't think that we need to go through that here because we just need to get to the material. Okay. Note to self, maybe edit that out. Probably don't. So here we go. We're into this.
All right.
Eric, do you have anything further to I've kind of just bombarded you with shit.
Well, it's good to set some stages because I've said, I'm not trying to read ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm letting you explain to me and to the listeners who might not know what's going on. Hopefully there are some that are listening that don't understand like I don't. And hopefully the people who do know what's going on are tolerating your nonsense.
Oh, they are not.
Keep listening anyway.
Oh no, they'll keep listening. So first track on the album is a little song called Space Oddity.
Dan has a picture of William Shatner with a cigarette and a tux.
Singing Rocket Man. Eric, I guess my first question, the floor is open. Any thoughts? Anything you have to add about the album in general or this or whatever? It doesn't need to be a linear conversation, but we have the slides in case we needed to turn linear.
True. The album is clearly a bunch of songs and also Space Oddity.
Yes.
So Visconti is kind of right. Like it does stand out, but it's the song is, it's a song everybody knows, and rightfully so, because it's a major. It's not just a novelty. It's not Bowie trying to sing a little novelty hit about we're landing on the moon.
Right.
It's eerie. It's interesting. It's really well done. Listening to it very closely the last few days has been really interesting to me. Because just from that first chord, you could tell that they're layering together weird stuff. Like that first chord is an F major 7 with an E chord. I had to look it up because I'm like, it's more than just like, you look up a guitar tab and it's like, you could play it in C. I'm like, well, I know it's in C, but what is this? Because there's depth to it, and sure, there's a little bit of an effect, but it makes more sense when you find out that there are two people playing opposing chords that kind of clash with each other, and they're in some ways beautiful, but they're in a lot of ways unsettling. And they play with that through the whole song, and these three acts of the song, and like they're different portions, and that's what makes it so interesting. Is it's not just a standard, we're gonna sing a verse, now the chorus, now the chorus. Like it's a journey.
That's something about his music that I didn't really recognize at all until I started learning how to basically teaching myself through learning what chords are, how to play the piano. I mean, I had help, but There's really no help in this. And I remember looking at the chords, and I took it into the I was working with a jazz teacher at the time. I'm not saying that to sound cool. I fucking hate jazz. But
and I hate you, Terry.
No, I tolerate it, but a lot of it is an inside joke that I think is stupid. And I was like, what's wrong with this? Why is this going from here to there to there to there? He's like, oh, because he's actually writing music. It's
right.
not just one,
it's not
5
a 3-chord
4
rock song.
Yeah. Which is it was kind of validating. It's like, oh, that something's actually happening here. That's cool. So yeah. So it might not surprise anybody to know that Mr. Bowie was being a naughty, naughty boy, and he was dipping into the ganj at this point in time. Later to replaced by the blow. And there's, I don't know how accurate this is, but some people have speculated that it has something to do with the breakup with Hermione or the distance. I think that it's really just him recognizing that there's someone could write about alienation and turning inwards in a way that wasn't being done in a popular way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what better place to be alienated when you're alone in a space capsule and
right.
Yeah.
High out of your mind.
Right.
There's an Italian version. We don't need to play it, but it's there on the slideshow. So I did my homework.
So I translated it into Italian.
Yeah. But it's actually, here, let's do it. It is actually a song. It's a love song. It's not a Major Tom song.
Oh,
which is interesting. So here, I'll just do some highlights. Let's do that. This is kind of in here, middle-ish. And once again, Asher is playing. I'm surprised that Asher's. I think he's eavesdropping. He's playing these things in an adjacent room. Anyone who is seeking out people to sue for making educational commentary podcasts, this is happening in an adjacent room.
It's just a small child who, enjoys playing music that we're talking about.
Right. Do you really want to make a 10-year-old sad? I know someone who does. Oh, you go.
Come be part of my instrument. We require souls.
Have you ever wanted to be music in itself? Have you ever thought about that? So that's that. That's him speaking in Italian. It's funny. Such a funny language.
I should mention before we move on to the next one. One of my favorite moments. Have you seen the show, The Venture Brothers?
No.
It's a cartoon show. It was on Adult Swim some years back, and there's one episode. So it's basically it's based on Johnny Quest. Like, it's a funny version of Johnny Quest where instead of being like great, the scientist dad is kind of a failure, and his twin sons are really, or not, they're not twins, but his sons are kind of weird. But they think they're always having adventures. Patrick Warburton is their personal protection servant guy. It's really great. And there's one episode where they're out at, I can't remember the setup, why they're out at sea on this boat, but they're investigating a ghost, and they find this space ghost. There's a phantom spaceman that's haunting the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And when they learn the history of the phantom spaceman, they find out that his name is Major Tom. and they flash back to the 60s, and there's this dramatic retelling where they're like, where this like rugged space explorer is crashing to the Earth. Tell my wife I love her very much. And the guy at Mission Control yells, "She knows."
That's great.
Can you hear me, Major Tom?
Yeah, I think the cultural significance of that song, I don't want to go so far as to say like it can't be overstated, but just, I mean, I think it can, but it goes pretty deep. I mean, even to the point that like it's in a Adam Sandler movie, you know. I don't know. And by the way, karaoke, that song, fucking awesome. People love it. And most karaoke places have it. So fun tip to the listener and to you, Eric, and to myself as a reminder to get back out there and do that karaoke.
Okay.
When it comes to the clapping parts, people lose their fucking shit. Audience participation.
You say, "All right, everybody, get those hands up."
No, actually, I just very cynically just clap. Oh, and just so it's on the record, that bass, that boom, 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 boom.
I love that part. I wrote that. That's the last note for this song. Is I love that.
It is so great. I don't know if it was a mistake or what, but it's just like
so distorted and weird.
It's
awesome.
That speaker is probably no longer with us. Such a nice touch. Yeah. And then up next, we have a little something called Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed. Eric, are you ready with your phallus and pigtails comments?
I'm ready for comments.
Okay.
On the song.
Okay. I wanted that to be a surprise. Eric, who do you think, what sort of person do you think, ignore the picture you have on in front of you in the screen.
Of an unwashed man talking to an older gentleman?
Yes. When you listened to the song, did you feel like it was, who did you feel like the song was speaking to?
My sense was, I mean, it's Bowie singing to a girl, a high class lady, and he's just a hippie. So,
right. Yeah.
But he's getting kind of aggressive toward the end,
right? Which is honestly, and that's an interesting point, because I had done this research like years ago, but coming back to this, I was like, okay, well, let's do some of that work again. I had completely forgotten that this was not targeted at a woman, and in that time that I had forgotten, that was kind of a weird discrepancy for me too. Where it's like, why is he yelling at her? But yeah, but yeah, as it says on the screen that you can't see, listener, despite his love for his father, Bowie said that he found it difficult to emotionally connect with him. Not really necessarily because of like status stuff, but really more around, father and son relationships aren't always easy, He goes into some Bo Diddley stuff at the end. I don't know if we need to go straight into that. Oh no.
I mean, there's a lot of, the whole album has a lot of acoustic. It's very folksy.
Yes.
And this one has more Bob Dylan vibes to me, at least with the cadence that he sings in.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, he was also a huge, I don't like Bob Dylan, so I didn't include him in this.
No, okay. You left that part out. You're like, nope.
Yep. Cutting him out.
He's not in this one. No, not an influence at all.
I'm the Ministry of Information on this. Not intentionally and not consciously, but I now realize, looking back, like, yeah, I kind of avoided any reference to him.
Okay.
Because I figured we could get there later through Velvet Underground, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I brought his name up directly. I summoned his gravelly voice. At least his current gravelly voice. Hey, Dan.
That's Tom
Bob Dylan.
Tom Waits and Bob Dylan.
Why don't you want me on your show?
Tom Waits and Bob Dylan in a buddy comedy where they're both cops.
Subtitles required.
That'd be awesome.
That's the name of the movie.
Oh God, subtitles required. This track is, I think, where I, as a re-listener listening to the remaster, I think a major change that Tony made was because there's Bad Tony. Look out, Bad Tony's coming. Oh no. He brings the dimension to the sound. There's more of it. There's more dimension there, and it's more like you can actually feel the layers build up and build up and build up towards the end where it goes into freak out mode. It's just like, okay, this is deserved. At least to my ear.
Mm-hmm.
The previous mix was always a little flat, and by the time we got to the freak out moment, I always kind of felt like, okay, next track, please. I get it.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah, if it's not really clicking with you, if it's not really driven.
Yeah, there's a lot of textural stuff going on there, which I love my textures. Phallus and pigtails, that kind of stuff. I think a lot of that probably comes from Mark Boland's influence, because he was kind of aggressively sexy. I don't know. I think all in all, a really interesting track.
I mean, T-Rex was doing a little bit of this type of rock before. I don't know a ton about T-Rex, but I know that they've got kind of some of the same vibes. Yeah.
And what kind of goes on there that I've kind of come to is that Boland and Bowie were friends, and they were kind of at the same point in their career with, like one of them would shoot forward a little bit, the other one would shoot forward a little bit. And eventually Bowie kind of just eclipses Mark Boland. But what we see with the interplay there is that Mark Boland was kind of doing the sexy flamboyant thing, where Bowie was just doing the kind of weirdo, like, I'm going to dress like a lady thing. Like just like gender bendery, but not in an aggressively sexy way.
Not pushing it. It's just, hey, this is what I'm wearing.
This is just what I'm wearing. Right.
My music isn't typical. So why should I dress typically?
Yeah. Where Boland was just like, I'm going to slap you with my dick, and I'm going to be dressed like a lady while I do it. But but in a playful way,
it's all showmanship.
It's all, yeah. But I think what ends up happening is you get Bowie saying like, oh, what if I do some of that aggressive stuff and have the androgynous stuff, the more aggressively androgynous stuff follow with me. And then he also says like, well, what if I create a character out of this? And Boland sees that. He's like, aha, challenge accepted. and kind of just pushes further with the glam stuff. And Boland's lyrics were kind of just like dumb rock music. Like, hey, let's rock, get it on, where Bowie's lyrics were not. So there's that interplay. I'm doing interplay motions with my fingers.
Yeah. More visuals for the podcast.
Yes, exactly.